Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on October 27th, 2025 at approximately 8 p.m. PST. Now, I have made it my life's calling to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. I build myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my own day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the exact same philosophies I guide virtually every decision I make by. With this in mind, I know these tools will work for you because they continue working for me and have literally worked for thousands of other people over the years, depending on their own personal efforts. Now, before we get into things, I just want to tip my hat to Storm, who is our primary moderator. He stays in the background most of the time, making sure that technology continues to work properly, and making certain that any problem children that show up, i.e., people that are here to just derail the conversation or hijack it, if you will, or simply here to cause a problem. Rest assured, Storm is very well versed at removing them. So if you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a few rules listed. If you suddenly find yourself on the outside looking in, unable to participate in chat, you undoubtedly broke one of those rules. And let's be clear, those rules I laid in place and asked my moderators to ensure them, with a very blunt direction to avoid complications. Okay. Now we have Ellie Moon in the chat room. She is the moderator. She's the primary moderator in the chat room. And she's there to help keep conversations going, ask questions when people don't have them. Because to be honest with you, I feed much better off questions that are being posed than I do off just trying to ramble on. Although I seem to be able to ramble. Okay, now, before we get into it too terribly far, we have Bob Thorson is in with the gold. How you doing, Bob? Glad you could join us. And Susan Ahern is... What the heck was that? Anyway, Susan Ahern, who is in with the silver. How's it going, Susan? I know your life is hectic most of the time. And then Mike Jones, you have come in with the bronze. How are things on your end? Glad you could join us. Today we are talking about one of the things I was told cannot be done. Okay, how do you generate income with a credit card? Now, understand, I do this myself. It does not make a lot of money. Okay, but I'm going to walk you through it one step at a time. And like I said, I use this exact method myself. Okay. Operation Shutdown is in with honorable mention. How you doing, Operation? Glad you could join us. Now, when we take a look at how do you generate money, generate an income with a credit card, well, let's get a couple of things straight. Number one, I am no financial advisor. I never went to school for it. I learned things the hard way. Okay, and yes, I still make really, really stupid moves, i.e. spending too much still, eating out or ordering in, take your pick. Okay, I can make all the excuses in the world. The reality is, number one, I'm lazy, and number two, I don't cook well. These both contribute to an already stupid maneuver. Okay, now, here's the way this works. A credit card, regardless, we just ignore the interest rate on it, okay? And this only works. Now, okay, slow that down for half a second. Let's be clear. Many of you have more than one credit card. Okay, so what we're going to get you to do is pick one. Not whichever one has the lowest interest rate. Whichever credit card you've got that has the most clear room on it. Okay, the most clear available. You only pick one. Okay, and here's the way it works. Most credit cards, and check your own credit card. Okay, do check your own credit card for specifics. But most credit cards, number one, they charge a ridiculous a ridiculous interest rate. However, there's good news there because we're not going to be paying interest on it anymore. Or more to the point, if you follow these steps, you won't be paying any newly generated interest. Your credit card, whatever your credit card balance is, you got to work from there and work down. Okay, but most credit cards, they put the bill in, they don't start charging you interest on said bill until 3 weeks down the road. So here's what you do. You take your credit card, regardless of what its interest rate is, that doesn't matter. Take your credit card. Now let's say you've got $50 credit room on your credit card, and you need to buy milk. You've got the $50 cash in your bank. Okay, so you can go either cash in the bank or credit card. Okay, now, why do we use the credit card? Well, here's why. If you buy the milk out of your bank, okay, the money's gone. Now, remember, your bank probably only pays 0.5% to a couple of percent per month. So we're not talking about a lot of money. Okay, the credit card charges you probably upwards of 20% or better. But we're not going to be paying interest on that. So you go to the grocery store, you got $50 available and $50 clear on your credit card. Go to the store, pick up your milk, buy it with the credit card. Now keep tabs on what you're buying. Okay, because what you do is you come home, you mark it down. Okay, on today being the 27th, I paid $6 for a gallon of milk. Now I don't know what the price is in your area, so this is just what I'm looking at. Okay, but 3 weeks down the road, they're going to charge you interest on that. So a week down the road, go to your bank, okay, go online or go to the bank itself and take that $6 and pay the $6 on the credit card plus a little extra if you've got a standing balance. So you pay what you just added plus a little. This will bring your overall balance down. And you just paid the bill that you just charged. You won't get interest on the new charge. Now, again, you're only looking at maybe a couple of percentage. Okay, maybe you're getting a couple of cents of interest that you're saving. Okay, well, more to the point that you're not spending. Now, when you pay off that credit card, if you're looking at 20%, if you're dealing with a $6 bill, 20% of $6 means they're going to add $1.20. Okay, now, and I'm doing the math in my head, so it might be wrong, so do your own math. Okay, but if you're paying $1.20 a year, cut that in 12, you're looking at 12 cents a month. Not much money that you're not spending. Okay, but what you are doing is that you're hanging on to it. Okay, and meanwhile, the $6 that you didn't pull out of the bank account earned a couple of cents sitting in your bank account. Now, like I said, this is not a lot of money. But as my father used to say, you take care of the pennies and the dollars will take care of themselves. So I'm hoping this is making sense. Okay, the same thing, by the way, applies to the rest of your bills. Okay, and this is why when you end up getting your paycheck in, if you've got a balance on your credit card, when your paycheck comes in, take as much as you can and put it on the credit card. The reason you do this is because you're going to use that credit card to pay your utilities. Because by doing that, you pay the utility off, pay the utility on time, your credit rating with the utility company goes up, and you're actively using the credit card, which means what the credit card company sees is you're spending the money and then you're paying it off. Okay. This is going to do you the world of good. If I'd have done this when I was a kid, and the sad part is I was telling people, this is what you've got to do. Okay. These are the things that we look at. How do you take your money and make it work for you? In this case, how do you take a credit card company's money? They've said, we're going to authorize you to spend whatever your credit limit is. Okay. And you just have to pay interest on it. Eventually, we want you to pay it off. But in all fairness, in the credit card company's standpoint, if you don't pay it off, they add interest, and it's an exorbitant amount of interest. Okay, now, this is why I don't have a problem with credit card companies. I just have a problem with people not knowing how to handle it. But nobody teaches. It's like, oh, buy this on credit because you really desire, it's something you really want. You can put it on credit. Credit simply means you're delaying your payment. So we're going to show you how to reclaim power over your finances. That's what Monday is all about here. Okay, now when I get done this stream, I'll be finishing off my books, and then starting tomorrow, because I finally got my head on straight with it, I think. Okay, and we're going down that road. Where are we? Bob Thorson goes, you also get 1 to 3% cash back, at least on my credit card. I get several $100s back a year. And that's one of those neat things, Bob, and I do appreciate you putting that in. Because if you've got a credit card with a cash back option, then, as Bob has just pointed out, then they give you even more money that comes back. But here's the kicker. With that couple of $100 you get back a year, turn around and put that in your savings account. Because if you don't, it's no longer savings. Okay, and this is something I should have done when I was a lot younger. Here I am, 62 years old, barely keeping a roof over my head, and finally going, if I'd have done what I told other people to do, I would be in so much better shape. But absolutely, check the specs on your credit card. Okay, like in my case, I've got things like, a debit card that can be, a debit card that can be used as a Visa. Okay, but it relies on me having money in the account. But because you're using the credit card and then paying it off before the 3-week mark, and this is why I say pay it off a week down the road. That way you got lots of room for the payment to go through. Okay, for the payment to go through to the credit card without you getting dinged interest. Okay, the other thing you'll find is by making regular payments on the credit card, they'll see it going, oh, look, you paid that chunk off. This is a good thing. Now, remember, you get a chunk of money come in, you put a chunk on the credit card, okay? Then you turn around and you pay, and you use that money that you've just put on, give it a couple of days till it shows up on your credit card that you've got it paid. Now you can put it to use. And again, every time you spend something, okay, let me get this out of the way. I've got a simple setup. I'm a dinosaur. So I use a desktop calendar. But on every day that you spend something, mark down what you spent on the credit card and a week down the road. And if you're like me, this might mean every day over the next week, you may be going in and going, oh, I spent $6 on milk today. Okay, so you pay that off on Tuesday, right, of the following week. And then the next week, oh, you had to go down and you had to buy a thing of coffee. And I don't mean a cup necessarily. In my case, I buy pounds of coffee at a time. Or as it is up here, kilograms of it. Okay. But you pay it off, and the credit card company sees the credit card is in active beneficial use. This will encourage them to go, hey, would you like a little more credit room on your credit card? Now, there is a caution here because of the way we're taught. Oh, look, we're going to up your credit rating, your credit available to you by $2,000. And so many people go, oh, look, I've got an extra $2,000 to spend. This is bad math. All they're doing is, in all fairness, offering you the opportunity to dig a much bigger hole. But, Christine, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Oh, I appreciate that. And yeah, it's been rough. The healing process has been rough. But I am getting back on my feet, and I'll tell you, the support I've received from you guys and from my wife and a number of people around me has been irreplaceable. Okay, and there are no words to say thank you enough. So what I'm aiming at doing at this point is going, okay, how can we help you avoid the same, and I will call them stupid moves I did, that I fell into? Okay, this is where working with your credit card on a regular basis comes in handier than all get out. Now, what I'm going to be doing with tonight, I appreciate that, Christine. And it's like I've told people, prayers work. So does positive affirmations. And meditation. All of it works great. Okay. And where it comes to me, I absolutely take those kind of prayers and go, I'm going to utilize that to encourage myself to continue doing what I have to. Now, just a heads up, guys. Yes, the doctors have diagnosed me diabetic, but the reality is I may not be renewing my medication because, frankly, the price they've got on it is too high for me to afford. And yeah, you'd think that, if they're giving free illicit drugs to people, why not give free, to addicts? Why not give free cancer treatments and free diabetic treatments, et cetera, to people that are legitimately doing what they can and are simply coupled with an illness? But that's another issue altogether. Buying using your credit card, and this is why I say take a look at all the credit cards you've got. Now, at one point, I actually had 13 credit cards at once. That's not a bad thing. It depends on how you use it as to whether it's of any use. Okay, because credit does set the stage for you to run into some pretty severe problems. Okay, but by utilizing the credit card, spending a little, and if you've already got a balance, pay a little more than what you put in. Like, for instance, oh, you paid $6 for a gallon of milk. Put $10 a week later, pay $10 on your credit card. This will wipe out the $6 you just spent, plus put an extra $4 down. Now, I don't even begin to pretend to understand how they work at all. This is just what I do, and it seems to be working. But you've got to be the one doing it. Okay? And where it comes to buying it with the credit card, even if you, or more to the point, especially if you've got money in the bank that you could be using, you leave your money sit in the bank, okay, and use the credit card. That way your bank generates interest on the money you're leaving there. Not a lot, I agree. It won't generate a lot of money. And by the way, for those of you that are going to school or are considering going to school and going, I don't desire a student, I'm not taking a student loan because I don't want to have to pay interest. Got an idea for you. And it falls under the same category of using somebody else's money to generate an income. Let's say you've got the money to pay for your own schooling. Get the student loan anyway. Okay, but the money you were going to spend on credit on the schooling, leave it in the bank. Use the student loan to pay for it, because most student loans, I don't know about the States or any other country for that matter, but in Canada, we've got until they don't start charging interest on a student loan until 6 months after you're done all of your schooling, assuming you go in every year. Okay, but by doing that, 4 months after you graduate, go to the bank, take all the money that you had sitting there to use as a student loan, and pay off the student loan. Okay, again, you spent a year or however long with the money sitting there generating an income. Okay, when you pay it off, you don't have to pay the interest because frankly, you didn't generate any. These are just some of the easiest tricks that I know of to make things work. And yes, you notice I am repeating myself quite consistently. In all fairness, I repeat myself when I'm talking to myself a lot as well. Okay, and absolutely, guys, just a quick reminder, if you've got a question, absolutely drop it into the chat room. Let me know. Okay, but do put it in all caps. That way I can see it. Okay, but you will find by utilizing a credit card, like in my case, okay, right now, and this is what I've got to check out. Okay, I've got 2 credit cards. Okay, whoop, that was wrong. I've got 2 credit cards. So once I get done, when I go to do my finances tonight, I'll go in and see which one charges the higher interest, and which one's got the most money available. They should both have about the same amount of clearance. So I will take the one with the most clearance and start putting it to use. Okay, and I will start doing exactly what I've just finished telling you. Okay, I've got money in the bank. I will leave that money sit and take a credit card and utilize that to buy whatever it is. Then, a week after I make that purchase, I will turn around and pay that amount plus a little. Because I know both of my credit cards both happen to have a balance on them. Okay, but by doing that, it will bring the credit balance down on a consistent basis. This will look good on my credit rating. Okay, and this applies to the credit cards, using the credit cards for groceries, for utilities, for gas, and as Bob pointed out, if you happen to have a credit card that has cash back, this is a convenient way to increase that cash flow. Okay, and like I said, especially in the case of cash back, when you get cash back, I encourage you not to pay the credit card. Okay, take that cash back and put it into your savings. Now, the only secure method of investment that I've ever found, for me personally, and lots of people swear by mutual funds. I don't. I've never made money on them. But every time I've gotten a GIC, a guaranteed income certificate, I don't know what you guys call them in the States. You'll have to look into that. But every time I've got one of them, I've made a little bit of income. Operation goes, Keith, do you recommend using more than one credit card? Um, okay, here's the deal. The short answer is yes, but do understand something, Operation. I recommend having, and this is what I personally am aiming at. This is not via financial advice because I've gone and taken an education on it. I personally recommend having as many as you can get away with, but this does not mean using them. Okay, now I will tell you, I've got 2 credit cards right now. And of course, my wife has credit cards as well. Oh, LA goes, it's called what we call a GIC is called a certificate of deposit on your end. Thanks so much, LA. I really appreciate that. But if you've got more than one credit card, it still applies. Okay, if you're using more than one, it still applies. You pay, like, I'm going to have one that I use for just groceries. Okay, and as I get more credit cards, I'll break them down so that one will get used for odds and ends, one's for business. Right. My wife uses her one credit card for Uber. So we can look at the statement and go, this is what we spent. But it's still a case of, okay, I spend $100 on my credit card on groceries. So a week down the road, take that $100 and pay that credit card. If you're using more than one, okay, then do the same thing with each credit card. You mark it down on your calendar in your on your cell phone, however you track it. Okay, however you track it, you mark it down, and a week after you spend it, go back to the bank, pay off that amount of the credit plus a little extra. Now, when I say a little extra, I do not mean you have to pay an extra $100. I mean you spent 6, pay 7, okay, or pay 650. I said a little extra. I did not say strap yourself. Okay, but it works in the long run. So yeah, I will eventually. I don't know how many I'm going to get. Like I said, at one point, I actually had 13 credit cards. Now, then that's credit cards, either actual Visa or MasterCard, or company like store cards, right? But here's the thing. When you do that, if you're only using the one, the credit cards are just sitting there. Get them, but once a year, buy a chocolate bar with the dormant ones. Okay, utilize them once a year. Pay them off and leave them sit for another year. Now, I knew one person that was having trouble because every time they went to the store, they grabbed their credit card and they go, "Oh, I don't have room on this one. I've got 2 credit cards, so I don't have room on this one. So I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to grab number 2 and use it." And they desperately desired to get out of debt. So what they did was they took all of their credit cards and they put them inside cardstock, and then put that cardstock, okay, like for instance, a recipe file card, okay, took that card, folded it around the credit card, and stuck the whole thing stuck it into a Ziploc baggie, an airtight bag. Put the whole thing in a bucket of water and froze all of their credit cards. They did not cancel any of them. Okay, but by freezing them, because you cannot, when you freeze them in water, you cannot afford to take your that block of ice and thaw it out. You can't speed thaw it, which means you freeze it solid. The cardstock is to make certain that as the water freezes, it doesn't break the credit card. Okay, and then once it thaws out, you pull it out, and away you go. Here we are. And Bob is just adding for us. He goes, I believe that keeping your credit utilization under 20% also boosts your credit score, which can save you money on your insurance, on car insurance. And I can tell you this, you are absolutely correct, at least in Canada there, Bob. Now, I don't know, I don't know if you're in Canada or in the States or somewhere else in the world, but I do agree with you. Okay, now they recommend 20. I will tell you this. I personally recommend keeping the utilization of your credit card to under 10%. Okay, now to be clear, I have one credit card I've got has a $15,000 limit. Okay, well, 10% means once I get it below $150, that's how far up I go. Nope, that's not right. Once I get it down, because it's 15,000, I turn around, okay, and I would have 1,500 I could clear. But always keep it down, always pay it off as best you can. You do not pay interest. Okay, it's the paying interest that kills you, metaphorically speaking. Okay, and of course, having a minimal percentage balance on your credit card tells the credit card company you're utilizing it, which encourages them to give you a little more leeway. Okay, now I've talked to a lot of people. Okay, and even, I've always found talking to professional financial advisors, okay, they will tell you what is best for for either them or for the bank they work for. Now, do not hold that against them. That's what they're paid for. Okay, and this is why I say, now if you utilize this method that I'm recommending, and I recommend it because I do it. Okay, I won't get any benefit from you bringing your credit rating up. Okay, although I've never turned money down. Okay, it was cute. I had a guy come to me one day and he goes, look, and this was like 40 years ago. Guy came up to me and he goes, excuse me, if you can pass this message on, and it was a blatant lie that he wanted me to pass on. He goes, if you will pass on this message, I'll give you $1,000 and you can keep the 1,000. And he said, will you do it for me? I looked at him and I said, I'll take the 1,000. Unfortunately, he was quick enough to think about it. He goes, well, what about passing on the message? I said, look, I'm not going to lie to anybody for anything. So, I said, I'll definitely take the 1,000. And he goes, well, why would I give you $1,000 if you're not going to pass on the message? I said, well, maybe you're nice. For some reason, it didn't work out as well as I would have liked. But by utilizing the credit card responsibly, okay, and here's the thing, when you take a look at, if you've got multiple credit cards, take a look at the current balance. Do not worry about the interest rate. Worry about the current balance remaining. You take the one with the smallest, monetarily speaking, balance owing. That's the one you use. Okay, which means, because I know both of mine are below limit, it means that with mine, I'm going to take the lower one and I'm going to end up utilizing it while the other one I work towards paying off. Okay, that way I can end up in front of the 8 ball instead of behind it. Now, where are we here? I was just checking to make sure I didn't miss something. And again, it really boils down to keeping an eye on what you're doing. Now, it is very tempting when when stores come out and say, hey, we've got a 2-for-1 special. This is fantastic, assuming it makes sense. And this is why all sales, you must take the time to look at. Absolutely, it is imperative you do so. Okay, because if you don't do so, you're going to have a problem. Okay, now, like you, I've run into problems. I've done some pretty stupid things. Okay, so I made some pretty solid decisions here about contracts that I signed, in spite of the fact they were very poorly, very ill advised. Okay, I will be paying them off, but I'll be paying them off my way, not based on, oh, we have to have this paid right now. It's not going to happen. Okay, but where it comes to your credit, now bear in mind, there is a big difference between using a credit card and the balance therein and using a line of credit. Because if you're using a line of credit, what's going to happen is the second you put money into your bank, that line of credit is going to get paid. With a credit card, you're the one in control of when it gets paid. Okay, but again, stay on top of it. Okay, if you don't stay on top of it, you're going to dig yourself into one heck of a crater. Okay, and this is why it is so important to turn around and go, okay, what am I looking at? How do I deal with it? And how am I going to get ahead? Okay, well, the way you get ahead is quite literally by spending responsibly. Your credit card can and does generate a low grade income, but you gotta be aware of what you're doing. Woo Rider, how you doing? Glad you could join us. The neat part about it is this works regardless of your credit rating or your credit limit. Okay, you don't have to be a millionaire for this to work. You have to have, a little bit of room on your credit card where you can use it, and then use it intelligently. And absolutely, with this method, with this video, absolutely go back over it and listen to it again and again and again. Get it to sink in. The reason I'm repeating myself so much right now is to absolutely make certain that you're hearing it. Okay, or more to the point, that you're listening to it. Now, I am doing the exact same thing. Tonight, I balance all my finances out. I did half of it today. Okay, I'll do the other half of it tonight after I get done the stream. Worst case scenario, it'll get done in the morning. Because I do find right now my stamina is not exactly as high as I would like it to be, but I'm working on it. So one of the neat little things that I'm looking at here is when you've got room on a credit card, okay, make absolutely certain, know what your limit is, and get it down as Bob Thorson suggested, get it down at least to the 20% mark. Now, this means if you've got $1,000 credit limit, this means $200. Okay, if you've got a $50 credit limit or a $500 credit limit, it means get it down under the 50. Okay, and then keep it there. This is one of the important factors. If you are using your credit wisely, I can virtually guarantee not only do things turn around and your credit score will climb, but your credit usage will improve. Where are we here? Whoop. Now, the only problem I have with answering that question, Christine has asked, oh, okay. Yeah, she goes, Keith has me looking into CD account percentage rates. And again, if you utilize, now I don't know what the CD is. Okay, but just remember, if it is simply a credit line, they will take the money first. With a credit card, you actually control it a lot better. But the nice part about it, is once you get a handle on it and you make the effort to do it, because you're the one that's got to control your finances, not me. You can turn it over to a financial advisor, but I'll tell you, oh, there we go, a certificate of deposit. Yeah. Now, I know up here, thanks very much for that there, Storm. I know up here, I will be going to and of course up here, we have something called a tax-free savings account. Okay. And I will be taking the money that I've got there and going into the bank and locking that into a GIC or a CD. Okay. I'll lock it in for a year and just have it roll over. Okay. That is the best way to make it work because you don't pay interest. Up here, a tax-free savings account, I don't pay any interest on the saving on the money it generates. It just builds. Okay, which reminds me, tomorrow I've got to go down because I've got money sitting there ready to go. But again, it's not a lot of money. But here's a neat little trick with a CD or with a GIC. You go in and start it off, get one. The idea is to have 12 CDs or 12 GICs running. One that matures every month and rolls right back over. This way you've got a steady rollover. You won't be able to do this all at once. Okay, so here's the neat little trick with that. And it's the one I'm going to be utilizing. Okay, you go in, you go, okay, I've got one that starts this month. Okay, and then you start it off doing just the one. Then the next one you get set up to flip over in 6 months. Yeah, and I agree. LA is going CDs here. Bear in mind, I'll put it this way: CDs in the states have a higher interest rate. You generate a higher interest rate than a savings account, and this is precisely why I'm going to take that money and turn it around and flip it over. I've got one in. I gotta go find out when the current one flips over, and you start off the second one. You flip and you put the second one in, so 6 months down the road, and then you back it up. Okay, so you go one once a year, then you bring it to the second one at 6 months, then you go after the quarterly, and then you work your way to fill in the months so that by the time you get done, and this may take a few years to do it, we are talking about playing the long game. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is using your money and theirs for you to get ahead. And no matter whether you're a pauper or a multi-billionaire, this method works because money doesn't care how you feel. Money doesn't care what mood you're in or who you vote for, etc., etc. Okay, all that having more money does is permit you to buy more things than other people. Okay, and this is why I'm going to start working on that side ASAP. Yeah, LA goes, they also have a larger beginning amount, a beginning deposit. And, much as I agree with that, and this is where it quite often they do. The ironic part of it, for me, is simple. If you don't have the money to start with, and this is why I only charge $20 for 15 minutes for consulting, or if you will, $80 an hour. I personally have been paid over $2,600 an hour for what I do. Okay, but the people that require it are not the ones that have $2,600 an hour. Okay, and again, that can be found, that the link for consulting can be found at buymeacoffee.com/InnerVoiceJ. Okay. Absolutely drop me a line. Okay. Tomorrow will be spent in my office going through a whole pile of emails and what have you that I've been missing. But I'll tell you, trying to recover from being dead, and that sounds weird, but it's true. Trying to recover from being dead is a little bit of a stress point. Okay. And by the way, don't do that. Do your best to avoid dying. It's really kind of an inconvenience. For me, according to my wife, it's really difficult for the people left behind. But when you're looking at utilizing your credit card to generate money, okay, it means literally you've got money in the bank and you've got clear money on the credit card. Use the credit card. And then a week after you use the credit card, pay that amount off plus a little extra. Even if it's only 50 cents extra, or even for that matter, a dime extra, put a little extra in. In the long run, your credit rating goes up, your balance drops. Operation goes, I'm doing my best to avoid dying. It's, for me, it's inconvenient. But I will tell you, this last one, they broke ribs while they brought me back. And, I am quite happy they did. Let's face it, I only just got married. Got married in August, died in September, recovered in October. And apparently still can't breathe. But, the nice part about it is that when you're using credit properly, you can generate a higher income. Okay, and this is why I'm turning around and putting everything to work. Like tomorrow, assuming I don't get a court because somebody's been threatening to take me to court. Okay, yeah, Christine, this is why I've got the thermos. It's because it's got the water for me. I've got somebody that is threatening to take me to court because of a payment that I couldn't make. So, assuming it wasn't a scam call, and somebody shows up offering me, handing me court papers, I'll deal with that. For the moment, I'm not going to worry about it. But that literally, I can honestly say, talking to Storm and talking to my younger brother helped put my mind a little more at ease regarding what's likely to go on with that and the odds of it likely being a scam. But I'll tell you, my nerves won't take the stress anymore. But if you have, where we are, Operation goes, Keith, I'm close to paying off a credit card. Do you recommend paying the whole thing off or leaving a small balance for credit score purposes? I recommend seriously paying the whole bill and the whole thing off. Okay, but then utilize it as we've been talking about. You pay the whole thing off so it's got a zero balance. Then with the zero balance, if you're going to buy dinner, okay, you put $50 on it. A week later, pay the $50 off and keep that credit card balance zero. Okay, absolutely, it is your best move. Okay, you don't leave a balance because if you leave a balance, they're just going to add interest, and there is no point in paying them more interest. Will goes, it took a few months. Where are we? well, it took a few months to gain stamina when exercising. Yeah, absolutely. It's the same thing. When you're building your stamina, building strength, you start small. With the credit card, if you're ready to pay it off, pay it off without crippling yourself, but get it paid to a zero balance. There we go. Yeah. Will goes, that's not gloating. If I can pay it off, anyone can. I was sloppy, out of shape, and out of shape bad. And this is the same thing. Financial shape. If I can dig myself out of a crater, so can you. Will is getting back into physical shape. Oh yeah, absolutely, Christine. The storm in LA have been a phenomenal boon for me as far as helping me keep my head on straight. Because I'll tell you, much as I talk about, here's positive perceptions, here's a positive perspective, the reality is I have fought depression most of my life. Okay. And it wasn't until I came out of this last run at the hospital that I finally looked in the mirror and went, I'm done going, I'm putting in time. Now I'm going to see what I can do about living and building, getting your credit cards paid off. Okay, and again, guys, if you bought something on time delay, 6 months interest free, get every penny of it paid off. Because here's what they don't tell you. If every penny is not paid off, and this applies to your credit cards, by the way, they will add the interest for the whole 6 months back on that account. Okay. And it's worse with cars. They go, you got 7 years in interest free. Get every single penny paid off. That way the interest is gone. Okay. Now, and woo, this is great. This is the same thing I'm doing. Okay. You work on one step, get one aspect. You got spiritual, mental, and physical. Okay. So the spiritual side, we're working on the one hand. Mental is your logic side and your emotions. And of course, the physical, you've got your physical world and your finances. All of them have to be brought into balance. But pick one at a time. Get it into balance, stabilize it, then go after the next one. Okay. I am a firm believer that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. The trick is believing that you yourself can take the money you've got and generate a better income. Okay, and generate a better life. And this is why when I look at Mondays, we're looking at the different things that I personally am doing. This is not a question of, oh, this is a good idea, do it. Okay. Here's a good idea for you. Well, it's like the government says, run, and I mean any government I've ever talked to, they go, you've got to run a balanced budget. Well, bad news, guys. I've yet to see a government run a balanced budget, but that's not their fault. Okay, they're gambling on how much money they're going to get. Same as credit card companies. But you can run a balanced budget. Okay, but it relies on taking a low. You can run a balanced, not so much budget. You can only run a balanced budget if you get X number of dollars every month. Okay, you're better off tracking your spending and putting it to use. And that's just it. Wu's going, I lost everything, started from scratch, big losses. I pushed the limits really far because I lost everything, including my life. Okay. And that really did bring me back with a whole different outlook. But where it comes to using your credit line, your credit card to generate income, go back and listen to this video again. Okay, listen to it day in and day out if you have to. Now, because it's not going anywhere. Okay, and again, you go to buymeacoffee.com/innervoiceJ, and you can absolutely get a hold of me. That said, we're down to the 5 minute mark. So thank you so very much for sharing your time with us tonight. Really appreciate it. Look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be covering the formula: success equals belief plus focused effort. Okay, until then, do take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.